Marco Rubio decided that it's been a few weeks since he did an obvious flip-flop, like a fish fresh out of water. So he laid out his foreign policy ideas and did a brand new flip-flop on the issue of Iraq. So he noticed how Jeb Bush got negative press for saying that he would still do Iraq, which Bush, of course, said in the interview with Megyn Kelly. And now he's sprinting in the other direction because he saw the backlash and he said, I want to get some good press here, so I'm going to go in the other direction. So he was asked, knowing what we know now, would you have done Iraq? And he said, quote, not only would I not have been in favor of it, President George W. Bush would not have been in favor of it. But here's the only problem with that. George W. Bush answered that question recently, and he said the opposite. He said he would still have done Iraq. We just covered that story not too long ago. And actually, here's another problem with that. Marco, you just said the opposite 2 months ago! On Fox News, he was asked if Iraq was a mistake, and he said this, quote, no, I don't believe. The world is a better place because Saddam Hussein is not in Iraq. Here's what I think might have happened had we not gone. You might have had an arms race to put Iraq in Iran. They both would pursue the weapons. I will be dealing with two problems, not just one. We forget that Iraq, at the time of the invasion, was in open defiance of numerous United Nations Security Council resolutions that the United Nations refused to enforce. They refused to comply with allowing inspectors in. Repeatedly, this was a country whose leader had gassed his own people on numerous occasions. So I think hindsight is always 20/20, but we don't know what the world would look like if Saddam Hussein was still there. But I doubt it would look better in terms of it will be worse or just as bad for different reasons. I think it's very difficult to predict, I think. A better notion is, at the end of the Iraq War, Iraq had an opportunity to have a stable, peaceful future. Dude, you just said that. You just gave a fucking diatribe, a thesis as to why we should have done Iraq. But now, you're asked the same question, and you're like, no, I definitely wouldn't have done it, and George W. Bush wouldn't have done it either. Even though both of you just said you would have done it. Marco Rubio is the least savvy politician I've ever seen. Because here's a guy, I'll give you another example of him doing exactly this. Immigration reform. Marco Rubio came up with an immigration reform bill. He wrote it. He and his staff presented it. And then within a year, he flip-flopped on his own bill. He's like, oh, no, that thing is crazy, man. That's amnesty. That's a path to citizenship. I'm against amnesty. What, are you crazy? Dude, that's your bill. You're against your own goddamn bill. Is there anybody that's, less principled than that? No, that's as bad as it gets. He's a guy who's essentially, all he cares about is the power and the narcissism and the selfishness. He's an empty suit. And when you're an empty suit, what you try to do is you want the power for the sake of having the power. You want power for power's sake. You want all the adulation, and you want people to love you, and you want to have your name in the history books. But the problem with a guy like Marco Rubio is he doesn't want to work for it. He doesn't want to think for it. He doesn't want to actually represent the American people or be right on the policy issues in order to get to that position. So instead, he's going the cheating route. He's saying, okay, I'll just flip-flop all over the place as long as, I can make people think I'm on their side right now. And outside of that, I'm just going to suck up like crazy to all these billionaires, and that'll get me more campaign dollars, and I'll win that way. I'll win through sheer force of will and selling out. So they'll give me the money, I'll run more ads, I'll get my name out there more, I'll hopefully get elected, and I can do all that without having a principled bone in my body.